right, I'm going to continue with Lincoln, How Abraham Lincoln Ended Slavery in America by Harold Holzer. And we are on Chapter 9, The Day of Jubilee. In spite of all the bad news from both voters and battlefields, New Year's Day, 1863, found Washington, D.C. in the mood for a celebration. For one thing, the President of the United States was bravely hosting a holiday reception at the White House. The public was invited to attend. Cabinet officers would be on hand. Military officers were scheduled to attend in their splendid uniforms. True, the bloody Civil War had been raging for nearly 2 years and showed no signs of ending soon. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers had already died of wounds or disease. Tens of thousands more were badly wounded, many crippled for life. Millions on both sides mourned the loss of husbands, fathers, sons, and brothers, but the American Union still survived. The flag still waved over the nation's capital. A new year was beginning. Perhaps it would bring both peace and healing to the divided United States, but most of all, this new year was destined to bring forth something truly historic. For the first time, most Americans understood that if Lincoln indeed issued the final Emancipation Proclamation that day, then 1863 would launch the country toward an important new goal, freedom. As guests prepared to flock to the White House to celebrate the holiday with their president, Abraham Lincoln faced the most important decision of his life. Would he, in the end, do what no American leader had ever tried to do before? Would he summon the moral and political courage to strike a death blow against 200 years of slavery, the horrific system that kept nearly 3 million human beings of African American descent in captivity and made them nothing more than property in the eyes of the law? He will stand by the proclamation, predicted the Chicago Tribune. We have never doubted Abraham Lincoln. Least of all have we ever had any doubt of the firmness of his anti-slavery convictions. But a worried New York lawyer named George Templeton Strong wondered whether Lincoln's backbone would carry him through the work he is pledged to do. As Strong put it, if he come out fair and square, he will do the biggest thing an Illinois jury lawyer has ever had a chance of doing, and take high place among the men who have controlled the destinies of nations. If he postpone or dilute his action, his name will be a byword and a hissing till the annals of the 19th century are forgotten. Like Lincoln, George Templeton Strong was a Republican. Most Democrats, even in the northern states, believed Lincoln lacked the authority to free slaves by presidential order. Congress had not authorized him to do so, and the Constitution still protected slavery itself. Some newspapers predicted that if Lincoln acted to free slaves, more soldiers would desert and the economy might collapse. Desert means soldiers would just leave their responsibilities of being soldiers and quit. That's what deserting is. Even the president's own wife, Mary, reportedly advised the president to let the emancipation deadline pass. But Abraham Lincoln had made up his mind. He had waited a long time, too long, some of his liberal critics had complained, to issue the preliminary proclamation the previous September. As Lincoln had recently assured a delegation of Union men from his native Kentucky, he would rather die than take back a word of the Proclamation of Freedom. And as he informed an Indian congressman, the South had fair warning that if they did not return to their duty, it should strike at this pillar of their strength. The promise must now be kept, and I shall never recall a word. Exactly 1 month later, on December 1st, Lincoln had sent the House and the Senate his annual message to Congress to be read aloud by a clerk, as was the custom of the day. This was an important speech, the equivalent of today's State of the Union address. In it, he left little doubt that he planned to go through with the Emancipation Proclamation as committed. The dogmas of the quiet past, he wrote, are inadequate to the stormy present. The occasion is piled high with difficulty, and we must rise with the occasion. As our case is new, so we must think anew and act anew. Then he ended the eloquent message with these especially stirring words. Fellow citizens, we cannot escape history. We of this Congress and this administration will be remembered in spite of ourselves. No personal significance or insignificance can spare one or another of us. The fiery trial through which we will pass will light us down in honor or dishonor to the latest generation. We say we are for the Union, The world will not forget that we say this. We know how to save the Union. The world knows we do know how to save it. Even we here, hold the power and bear the responsibility. In giving freedom to the slave, we assure freedom to the free, honorable alike in what we give and what we preserve. We shall nobly save or meanly lose the last best hope of earth. Other means may succeed. This could not fail. The way is plain, peaceful, generous, just. A way which, if followed, the world will forever applaud and God must forever bless. Now history was knocking on the White House door. It was New Year's Day. The hour had come. That morning, a clerk brought Abraham Lincoln the finished document to sign. A professional penmanship expert had prepared it. The words were beautifully inscribed on heavy parchment-like paper. It began with the line, "By the President of the United States of America, a proclamation." At the bottom of the scroll was the gold seal of the nation adorned with colorful ribbons. Abraham Lincoln put on his spectacles, picked up the document, and began reading it carefully. He trusted his own writing perfectly, but he wanted to make sure it had been copied without a mistake. All seemed fine until he got to the final paragraph. It was supposed to say, "In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the United States of America to be affixed." But something was wrong. The words were garbled. The last sentence made no sense. The same words had appeared correctly on dozens of presidential proclamations of much less importance, yet somehow they were incorrect on the most dramatic announcement of his presidency. So Lincoln decided not to sign it. It was simply too important to make it official with such a flaw. Instead, he instructed that it be sent back to the official scribe who had labored so hard to create it. Holiday or not, he was to start from the beginning and rewrite the entire proclamation. I'm going to stop there for today.